to the first ever pilot episode of the Book of Joe, where average people just like me are going to sit around and discuss today's current events, and we're going to have a lot of fun here today. Today we're going to be talking about three specific events. We're going to talk about what's going on in the news with the NFL, Ray Rice specifically, and domestic violence. And then we're going to move a little bit more lighthearted. We're going to get into the new iPhone 6. Tim Cook just did his keynote, so we're going to hear from a Mac enthusiast about that. And then we're going to move into the new Batmobile. Snyder has released his video, and we're going to get into that. But first, let's introduce our guests. Today we've got Paul Carganilla, sports enthusiast and the world's greatest DJ from FedoraDJ.com. Brand new dad, we've got Paul. We've also got Mark Langston of Lang Art Designs. He's a graphic designer who is a big Baltimore Ravens fan, and he bleeds Apple. We also got Ryan Willer with us, who's a writer, director, actor, producer, a famous fruit stacker, and a big hockey fan. We've also got Brian Donahue. He makes your morning that much better, and he loves his comic books. Not to mention, we've got Heidi Rhodes bringing the female perspective for us all here today. She's actually working on a documentary entitled You Look a Lot Like Me. It's a documentary that speaks about domestic violence, so I think she's a great person to have to discuss what's going on with Ray Rice and today's current affairs. So without further ado, let's get right into that first topic, Ray Rice. For those of you who don't recall, Ray Rice is in a lot of trouble with the NFL and probably most everybody after he knocked out his girlfriend. Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you, sports enthusiast. Take us away on Ray Rice.
All right, thank you, Joe. And it's such a pleasure to be a part of this first ever Book of Joe. Thanks for having me. So I just wanted to give you all an average Joe breakdown of this story because a lot of you have probably heard, oh yeah, Ray Rice, he hits his girl and stuff like that, but you have no idea what the actual story is or why so many people are talking about it. And there are so many different angles and things to talk about in this story that you just need a Cliff Notes version or an average Joe version. So open your Book of Joe, and here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, back in February, Ray Rice and his then fiancée, Janae Palmer, got wasted in Atlantic City casino/hotel. And I should probably preface this, but this whole story is just about really dumb people doing stupid-ass things. Now, getting wasted in a casino is not that dumb. I mean, you want to go to a casino and do that. But they got in a little fight, and then they took it into the elevator, and then Ray knocked Janae out. First stupid-ass thing. Not just like he hit her, he backhanded her, they were mad. Like, he knocked her out cold. That was back in February. So the Super Bowl had just ended. The NFL is like really quiet. It's their quietest month of the year, other than the big game. So we don't hear anything about it. So 5 months later, it becomes a story. But what people don't understand is that shortly after it happened, shortly after he knocked her ass out in the elevator, she married him. Days later. Second stupid ass thing. Like 24 hours after he was indicted in court for knocking her out cold in an elevator, she married him. Okay, so that's part of the story too. So fast forward to the end of July here, where the video of him dragging her out of the elevator surfaces. Again, this is 5 months later. The NFL is getting ready to start their season, and Commissioner of Football, Roger Goodell, is like, hey, Ray Rice, I need to suspend you because look at what showed up on TMZ. You knocked out your then girlfriend, now wife. And Roger Goodell, because he wants to protect the NFL and all the money that it's making, suspends him for 2 games. 2 games. Now, this is the third stupid-ass thing that happened in this story. 2 games. And that's why a lot of people got upset. Like, 2 games? He knocked her. He's dragging her out of the elevator. 2 games? So, big uproar. And you probably remember this. This is about a month ago. And then the controversy is he should have been suspended for longer. Or, well, he hasn't really done anything. So they went to basically their PR people, and they did the big show. The Ravens said, "Oh, we love Ray Rice. He's such a good guy. He made a mistake." And then Ray Rice and his now wife, Janae, sit in a press conference and say, "We made a mistake." Fourth stupid ass thing. Look, we got in an argument, and I can change. It's not a big deal. Behind us, put it behind ourselves. We're starting the NFL season, and then a few days ago, and this is why we're all talking about it, the video from inside the elevator comes out, and people can actually see what happened, and it's not like, the Jay-Z Beyonce sister video where she goes nuts and starts wailing on him. No, they walk in, they're arguing. He hits her a little bit. She punches him back, and then he knocks her ass out, just like that. Hard, real hard. And on the way down, her head hits the handle of the handrail in the elevator. That's why she was out so cold. And now, 3 days ago, 7 months after it actually happened, people are upset. And the Ravens terminated his contract. Nike terminated his ads. He is basically done from football, costing him over $100 million. And what happens? His wife, Janae, goes on Twitter and says, "You have all ruined our lives. This was our dream, being football, an NFL star, and you have taken that away from us. Oh my God, you've ruined us." And that's why it's a big story. There are so many different problems every step of the way. And so that's why it's kind of a fun thing to talk about. But, in the news the last few days, some women, some Ravens fans are coming to Ray Rice's aid saying, if you get hit by a woman, you should hit her back. And other people are saying you should never hit a woman. All I have to say to everyone is,
you are so dumb. You are really dumb, for real.
Come on now. So that's the story of Ray Rice and why it's a big deal and why everybody's talking about it. A bunch of dumb people doing stupid-ass things.
Well, thank you, Paul. I couldn't agree more with most of that. When you look at the video, and I'm going to show it again. I know during it I showed it on the little corner there, but I'm going to show that knockout video again. It really is pretty disturbing when you look at what happens. First, let's look at just actually the act of him dragging her out. I mean, that I hear a lot of people today, and I'm really curious to hear from the rest of you what your thoughts on this are, but you hear a lot of people today saying that should have been enough. That was enough. I mean, look at this. The problem is, and this is the problem I have, is that really enough? I mean, we don't know anything that happened. So when I look at this, 2-game suspension because he drug his girlfriend out, when you just look at the surface, right? We're not looking at what actually happened. We don't know anything. I was like, all right, so yeah, not a big deal. But then all of a sudden, like you said, months later, nobody's talking about it because football's over, and all of a sudden now we have this new video released that is just, it's horrendous. I mean,
you're so dumb.
When you see her get knocked out like that I mean, the part that really I think disturbs me is it's just the way that it happens. And at first look, when I first see this, I see, typically they get in the elevator. Luckily, that old lady didn't get in there with them. God only knows what would happen then. But you see them get into this elevator, and yeah, there's a little tussle. They fight a little bit here, but after he knocks her out, there's like no emotion. It's just like, she fell down, hit her head. We'll deal with it later. It's a pretty bad situation, and really though, I think the problem that I have with this whole thing is that it became a much bigger issue only after the video surfaced. Is that a problem? And I'd like to take a look at Heidi. Just really would like to ask you, as a woman and somebody who's been involved in domestic violence, what is your take on this? I know you're not real big on the NFL. You may not know a lot about what's going on with the NFL itself, but what exactly is your thoughts on this situation?
Yeah.
Oh, I was hanging on, Heidi. You're muted. Let me unmute you there. Oh, there we go. Can you? You should be good to go now.
Can you hear me now?
We're good.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me onto the panel tonight. I came across that video actually just a couple of days ago. I don't follow the NFL, and I hadn't really been hearing what was going on, but it was on Facebook somewhere, so I took a look. And what I saw was both appalling and not surprising at all, unfortunately. To me, it doesn't matter one bit whether he's a football player or not, or whether they were married or not. It's a really, really good example and very typical example of sort of classic domestic abuse. It's a matter of control, where he clearly felt that he could control the situation by shutting her up in a very simple way. And I think you're right that he didn't show a lot of physical emotion over it after. And then when he dragged her out, it wasn't in any kind of caring way. It was very, very much like, this is a piece of property and it broke. What are we going to do?
Let me ask you, do you think that this is something that's ongoing, that this is something they've been doing, or is this a first-time offense?
I would say absolutely it's been ongoing for a long enough time that she is terrified enough to not want to leave.
And cash his checks.
No, the weird thing that happens when one is in that situation is that it feels like it's safer to stay there and oversee the situation and watch, because over 85% of the people that are actually killed in domestic situations are killed after they leave.
I think actually, and this is something I heard, Paul, and I'm going to hit on that note that you said there. Now that he's not making millions of dollars, is she calling her divorce attorney now?
God, she might be, because it's in court. There's a way to get a divorce and get half of his money, obviously, because now your life is not the same as when you enter the marriage. That is, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I know that is like a thing you can use in court, saying, I entered into this marriage knowing I was going to be taken care of with millions of dollars, and now he's not making it, so I'm out. You can do that.
Now, Heidi, as a woman, do you think that she would do that, or do you think she's so fearful for her life and for the fact that he's obviously abusive, in your mind that he's abusive? I'm actually have a point on that I'll make in a second, but do you think that because of that she will leave him?
Well, first of all, if it's the law that you have half of the assets or whatever Paul was saying, then her case is no different than anyone else who gets divorced. So, it doesn't really matter that he's a football player and he makes a lot of money. Unfortunately, my guess would be that she would stay, and it's not really because she's like stupid. It's because she kind of probably feels, and probably rightfully so, that if she doesn't stay, he's most likely threatened to kill her. It didn't seem like he was a nice guy. And he's going to do it if she leaves. That's the threat. If you leave, if you tell, if you don't tweet that this is a bad thing, you know, if you don't marry me, I'll kill you, and you know I can because I beat you up really easily.
Now, and here's a question I have. So I've watched that video 30, 40 times, a lot of it prepping for what we're about to do here today. Part of that was when I watch it, they have a little tussle, and then he backs off, and she comes at him. I only wonder if this is an ongoing thing. Would she still, if you're getting beaten on a regular basis, do you cower in the corner of the elevator, or do you actually still go after him like she did? I'm just curious if there's any actually evidence in there that maybe this was a first-time thing and that he could actually have remorse.
And keep in mind, they were both wasted.
Good point.
Yeah. Well,
I think obviously they're more uninhibited. Go ahead, Heidi.
Well, in my experience in talking to a lot of people in these situations, and the documentary "You Look a Lot Like Me," actually it's already finished, and it's the product from. I was an associate producer, and I spoke on it as well. So, you know, a lot of research and a lot of personal stories that I've heard go into my believing that this was not the first time, and that her move towards him was because she, I mean, it's different for every person, for sure, but I know the feeling of being like, I know I know what you're going to do, and I'm going to try to stop it, or I'm going to try to minimize it. But cowering the corner often makes people that want to hurt and control others, it gives them what fuels their fire. It gets them bigger and madder.
It's an interesting perspective, and actually, if you watch it, at the same time, while I say she should be cowering in the corner, she also could be even coming to him to apologize for whatever she did to deserve the first little tussle. That being said, I'd actually like to turn to Brian Donahue. Brian, I know that you're not a major football fan. I'm guessing that you know of Ray Rice only because of this video?
Yeah, that's exactly the only way I've ever heard the name before. I saw the first video first, and to be completely honest with you, hearing it was in Vegas and him dragging an unconscious person out of an elevator is not something I've never seen in Vegas before. So honestly, I had no idea what the whole hubbub was about because, I'd never saw any of the original conversation about it. It wasn't until the second video where, he essentially crocks her across the face like a prize fighter that I really realized anything was going wrong. And I was actually talking to a couple of friends of mine about this earlier today, where a couple of them made the contention that possibly the reason she made the lunge towards him was when she threatened him, it was a much quicker, much more severe reaction rather than if I have to come get you, it's going to be worse for you. So she instigated a much more violent reaction to get it over with, knowing that one hit would be done rather than an ongoing instigation. I think the biggest problem I have with the whole thing is we've put these human beings who are human beings on such high pedestals, and now we're letting our children and our families and everyone else look up to these people, and they don't hold themselves to the same standard that we're trying to hold them to. So partly I think the problem is we have made these people believe that they are as great as we are making them out to be, and I think the biggest problem then is that makes them feel a feeling of invincibility that they shouldn't have, especially because they are human.
Right. Well, that's an interesting point, actually, and I agree certainly that we have created these images of these guys standing on pillars and they're these big football stars. But I have a question. This is actually going to go to Ryan. As a hockey fan, we don't hear about this kind of violence in hockey, and that's a violent sport. So I'm curious. Is it, in your mind, is there a reason, or what's the difference between why it's so violent in football versus hockey? Is it because of the money? Is it what is making the difference here between these two sports? Because you don't hear this in hockey at all.
No, not really any sort of domestic violence. Other things have occurred because I follow hockey closely. I don't follow football, basketball, and baseball closely, but obviously when things happen in the media and I hear about them. My guess might be you say hockey's a violent sport, and it is. And maybe I say this partially with humor, but maybe it's true also, is that you're allowed to fight in hockey. You can get that aggression out. It's part of the sport. Maybe that's it. But I do think also the money thing too. Assuming football players make a lot of money, and Donna, who you were talking about pedestal, us putting them up on pedestals and everything, or maybe that was Joe when he was talking about putting people up on pedestals, and I think that goes to people's heads. You know, I mean, you make a lot of money, and yeah, that you know.
And I agree with that. I mean, in hockey, the average salary is, I'm sure, a fifth of what it is in football.
It's low, yeah.
Now, also in hockey, and I don't know. I'm not a real huge hockey fan. I watch it, but I don't necessarily follow it. Is it common for hockey players to be drafted out of high school and college, or do they always? I mean, do they finish college always, or what is the typical age of a starting hockey player?
18.
18 is like in the pros where they're getting paid, because I would ask this, and actually before we get to Mark, I'd ask Paul, as a sports enthusiast, are we giving these kids too much money and telling them, here, you all of a sudden have $5 million when you've never had a cent before?
Me or Ryan?
You can take that one.
Absolutely, we're giving them too much money. Absolutely. We're giving athletes too much money. We're giving movie stars too much money. We're giving people too much money to do things that they want to do. That's a whole. I didn't know how you wanted to attack this subject.
I'm going to ditto what Paul said, though. I pretty much agree with that. That was well said. There are things that have happened in hockey. I don't know if any of you watch hockey, not domestic, but back in 2008, I don't know if any of you remember Sean Avery, kind of wild hockey player, played for the Kings, Dallas, New York, and he was in the media a little bit because he did a pre-interview for a game against Calgary, and Sean Avery at one point had dated the actress Alicia Cuthbert from 24. Do you remember her? Canadian actress, blonde actress. Sean Avery and her dated in 2007, and then they broke up. She ended up dating I don't remember his name, but it was a player on Calgary, and Dallas Stars are playing Calgary Flames, and media's in the locker room, and they interview Sean Avery. And I don't remember the exact words, but he made some sort of comment about how he was looking forward to knocking out the guy that is getting his sloppy seconds. And it was a whole thing, and the Dallas cut him from their team, and no one wanted to work with him. He ended up on the Rangers for a bit, but you know, it happens, and I think it's just an attitude thing. Most hockey players are actually pretty intelligent and very sophisticated, because you don't hear about this stuff, but then there's guys like that it's an attitude thing.
Yeah, and I think the worst thing I ever heard in hockey is Marty McSorley tried to stab a guy with a stick, but I think that was on the ice, wasn't it? It wasn't like
he didn't stab a guy. He took a stick and hit a guy in the head, and the guy happened to be black, and it was a whole racial thing. Yeah.
So there's definitely some questions I have in the long term about, you know, is it money, is it this? But I'm curious, Mark, as a Baltimore Ravens fan, if you owned a Ray Rice jersey right now, would you wear it?
You know, it's interesting. I actually saw some, or heard about some interviews from some of the fans and some of the female fans, and they actually defended Ray Rice. They were saying, well, you know, we have to still stand behind him. He's a good citizen, but you don't see anyone burning his jersey in effigy, like maybe LeBron James, who just left the city and they're burning his jersey, and yet you have someone who's committing domestic violence, and people are like, it's okay, and we can, you know, we're still going to support him. So I think it would be. I'm not in Baltimore anymore, so I don't know what the real reaction is like, but. First off, I guess for me, I don't wear another man's jersey, so maybe that's just me. But I'm gonna put another man's name on my back. But yeah, I can't see why anyone would, because essentially you're supporting this behavior, just like, you know, Chris Brown, right? I mean, there were girls on Twitter that were saying, "Oh, Chris, come and beat me. You can beat me anytime." And what are we instilling in our children, that these girls would want to be beat up because he's a celebrity or he's a star? I mean, just like Paul said, we're paying them too much money. They're not really doing it. We're paying when you see a basketball game or a football game or a baseball game. We're looking at millionaires playing a sport. I mean, essentially, think of it like Donald Trump and all these other guys. But just a more hunkier, more fit version of a millionaire with investments in hotels and restaurants. Millionaires playing the game. I mean, that's what this comes down to, and it's way too much money. When you got teachers like in my daughter's school that can barely, they say, oh, we don't have enough books for all the kids, and I just sit there and go, what? We have enough books for the kids, and yet there's Jim Carrey gets $20 million a picture. Not that he doesn't deserve it. I'm just saying that's a lot of money going to the wrong places and a wrong where we're putting our ethics and where we're putting our energy.
I would agree, and actually this goes right along. Today, Adrian Peterson was indicted for child abuse, and I happen to have some pictures here from that. This is actually a week after he took a branch and beat his child with it, and that's on his leg. It's hard to tell, but you can see this is the underwear line, and that's his leg, and that's a week after. Is this the same type of response? Is it just guys that are being paid too much money, who aren't being taught the proper manners, or is this okay?
There are a couple of different aspects of what you just brought up. You just opened a whole new. I know you're trying to wrap up this subject, but you just opened it.
It's all good. It's okay. I knew that would happen.
Listen, this is the first time I'm hearing about the Adrian Peterson thing, but I can also tell you, like, I know friends who were punished harsher than I was because they went to Catholic school. And my parents don't believe in spanking. So it's like, oh my God, how can we get money? Maybe that's the thing. I don't even know. I haven't had time to react to the Adrian Peterson thing. But just because I know you want to wrap up this subject, I just want to say, because you invited me on the show, and I'm going to use it as a soapbox, we pay people, athletes, musicians, movie stars, too much money to do what their dream is. And then our teachers who are taking care of our kids, the guys who are checking us out at the local grocery store are hungry. I'm all about following your dreams. That's my biggest thing in life, is do what you want to do because you love to do it, and that's why you wake up every morning to do this. So if you're playing basketball, play basketball. Don't demand $24 million a year to do it. And that's great that you can make it, but holy shit, if we just, all of us Americans, the greatest country in the world, would act like we're the greatest citizens in the world, at least equal, like we claim we are. Can we
So
just
Paul's angry. Paul's angry.
do what we want to do and accept that? I don't know. If I was Ray Rice and I was making $1 million a year, I think I'd be happy. That's all.
I'm with you, Paul. And actually, I'm going to ask. I have 3 parents here, and I would just to wrap that up, and then we're going to do one final thought on the whole process from everybody. We'll start with Mark. Mark, as a parent, seeing those pictures, I'm not a parent, so for me, I'm like, hey, sometimes kids need some extra motivation to do the right thing. I think that's a little much. It looks like it was a little aggressive. But that being said, as a parent, would you ever, if you came home and your kid had those marks on them and it was from your wife, would you accept that? I mean, is that acceptable to you?
No. There's discipline, right? There's discipline, and it's supposed to be taught. There's something you're supposed to learn. He can't learn anything from a switch on his leg and scabbing up. There's no lesson in that. So if he wants him to act differently or behave differently or whatever the outcome is supposed to be, that's not the answer. So you have to treat, the way I think it, you have to treat discipline like it's school. It's lesson, right? There's the information, then there's a test. Did you learn anything? Did you comprehend it? Did you pick up on it? And then if they didn't, then you do it again until they get it. So that's nothing to be taught from that. Only thing they can teach him is how to use peroxide, I suppose, and how to heal his wounds. That's the only lesson he's going to get from that.
I'd like to move on to Ryan on that. Ryan, what's your thoughts as a parent as well?
Along the lines of Mark said, I want my kid to listen to me. I don't want him to obey me, and hitting him, it's going to make him fear you, and I don't want that. It's pretty obvious, no, you can't.
You've never taken Jack aside and pulled a branch off a tree and as Adrian Peterson actually said, gave him a whooping.
No,
that's an actual quote. He gave him a whooping.
Give him a whooping. No, I don't. I have no whip. Give him a bop. What are you thinking? And you pop him upside the head. That's about as far as. Yeah, exactly. That's as far as you can do. It pretty much gets the point across, I think.
Now, Paul, you're a new parent, so I know sometimes the baby cries and you just shake it, right, to make it stop. I've always heard that was the right thing to do. But no, as a parent, could you imagine ever getting to that anger level where you feel like you could take a branch off a tree and give your child a whooping? You're muted.
Sorry, I was saying my daughter is 4 months old. The prospect, the thought of her bleeding makes me want to murder someone. And if she married a dude that punched her out in an elevator, I don't know. I would lose my mind. My head would explode. I would say my raising you, I've done nothing, and there's no place for domestic violence in the world, and there is no reason why anyone should be forgiven for that and given their $1 million contracts back.
Heidi, I'll let you kind of take a final stab at it, then I'll just kind of get some last comments. Should Ray Rice be banned from the NHL? Should he have everything removed from him? Or, I'm sorry, NFL. I'm sorry. Should he have everything removed from him? Where do you feel, as a woman and somebody who's dealt with domestic violence in your studies, what's your thoughts on what his future should be?
That's a really great question. I feel like his future should reflect his own actions, and I feel like rewarding him in any ways for that behavior is not going to help him. I think the best thing that has come from his behavior and of Adrian Peterson is that it's bringing the conversation out, and everybody's talking about it. And I want to encourage anyone who has the question to their lips, which there's so many, like, well, how could a parent do that? Or why didn't she just leave? Or any other questions. Go find the answers. There's tons and tons of explanations of that on the web, or real people who have experienced that stuff. But there's actually a lot of really, really good answers and a lot of education out there.
And I think that's the best point, right? Is there are support groups. If you're having any issues at home, get the help. Don't let a guy treat you like that. And as the two fathers of daughters, I'm sure they agree. You don't let a man treat you like that. Brian, as a non-football fan, what is your thoughts on that same question? Should he be banned for life?
Personally, I think the answer is a resounding yes. And my whole reason for why is I think if we give him back the rights and privileges that he had before, it perpetuates the myth that this is okay, that we're in some way consenting to this kind of behavior. If you're going to be in the public eye and you're going to be someone who's going to be looked up to, even if you didn't choose to be a hero, you are a hero. When you put your name on that dotted line and you decide to become a celebrity, you are instantly held to a higher standard than everybody else. And if you choose not to use that for a positive purpose, then yes, I think you need to be dragged down. I think you need to be thrown in front of a firing squad, whether it be metaphorical or what have you, to prove that this is not the kind of behavior that we want to see in our society. And by showing that our celebrities are not above reproach, we do that. And let the next generation know that we are not going to stand for this kind of behavior to continue.
I would agree. We're going to go, Mark, last thoughts. Oh, the hotline.org. I'm sorry, actually, take real fast. We're going to move to Paul's screen. I'm putting Paul large. The hotline.org, that's where you can go if you've got any domestic abuse or any issues that you need to deal with. That's a great announcement there, Paul. Thank you for that. The hotline.org. Look, we're even doing good here today. I love it. So, Mark, should he be banned from the NFL? Would you like to see him play against your Baltimore Ravens someday in the future?
No. And honestly, I think it's PR nightmare to have him on any team at this point. I don't think any team would take him. They would be jeopardizing fan base, women, trying to attract women to the games. It's PR suicide to have him on a team at this point. I mean, maybe we'll get over it like we get over everything else after like 4 or 5 years, but right now, no. Probably forever, but definitely for at least for a really good long while.
Ryan Willer, same question. Should he be banned from the football league?
I think he kind of has to. Was it Donnie was talking about public eye? What was the Sterling guy with the whole racist
Yeah,
thing?
Donald.
It's going to happen, if you're in the public eye, actor, athlete, whatever. The thing I mentioned with Sean Avery, I mean, he talks about like an ex-girlfriend. It sounds very childish and juvenile, but of course, the team's going to let him go because they got to do what they got to do to keep, their good name. So whether or not I agree with that, I don't personally care. I'm not a football fan, but yeah, that's probably what's got to happen,
Beautiful. Well, I appreciate you guys' honesty on this topic. We're going to move into topic number 2. And really, this one is going to get a lot more lighthearted. We're going to kind of leave the dark and nasty of the NFL and beating your wife and pushing her downstairs and beating her up in the elevator.
We're having so much fun.
But we're going to move. We're going to move. So just the other day, the great innovator Tim Cook released. Did his big keynote on the Apple iPhone 6 and Apple iPhone 6 Plus. I'm going to show a commercial, and then I'm going to hand it over to our Mac enthusiast, Mark Langston, who literally every day tells me how amazing Mac is. And if you ever try to say otherwise to him, he'll tell you 100 reasons why you're wrong, which is what I love about Mark. So first, let's take a quick look at this. It was the first search I did, the first thing that came up. It may not be the best commercial, but it's what I found quickly for Apple.
This is the iPhone 6, and this is the iPhone 6 Plus. They come with a thing called Health, so they can help you track a lot of stuff. Like today I walked 3.8 miles. Well, I ran 4.2 miles. Well, I climbed 11 flights of stairs.
Well, I drank a smoothie that had 362 calories in it.
Well, I had a funnel cake that had 1,230 calories in it.
You know that's not good, right?
Was it? Delicious.
So a fun little commercial there about one guy having a bigger phone than the other guy. Not that men ever sit around and compare the size of their phone, but apparently they do. So I ask you, Mark, as a big enthusiast, when he did his keynote, were you having wet dreams? Is it everything you expected, or is it pretty much just another iPhone launch and it's just okay?
No, what's interesting is actually the phone really wasn't even the big announcement. Apple's biggest problem is that they cannot keep a secret to save their life. Part of that is because everything is manufactured outside of the United States, so they just have no control over the employees or the media or anything else. So everything gets leaked. We already knew what the phone was going to look like before they even announced it. We pretty much knew everything about it. And then the watch was actually really cool. We knew they were going to do it. We just didn't know what it was going to look like or what it was going to do. I thought that was really, really innovative. But outside of the phone and the watch, the biggest thing was Apple Pay. That was the most innovative feature they came out with, mainly because it puts Apple in a position that Google's actually been trying for like 2 years now to try to get mobile payments to be more accepted. And a lot of people, I know some people do use it. I've never seen anyone use it before, but I've read some comments. People say, yeah, I've used it all the time. But my guess is the average person probably hasn't seen anyone walk up to a McDonald's or a Target or whatever and use their phone to pay for their bill. They're probably still walking around with credit card or Target card or whatever they're using and debit cards. So that's really the biggest and most innovative feature that they announced. To be able to, and then of course that aligns with the Touch ID in the current phones right now, the 5S. So you can imagine walking up to a kiosk at an Apple store, at Target, Starbucks, Subway. They mentioned Subway as well. You use the Touch ID. You don't even have to wake up the phone. It knows that you're in a store. the credit cards sort of come up on the screen. You choose the one you want. You use the Touch ID on your thumb. You put it to the credit card device, and it pays for it. You automatically also have a register of it, right? So, you know, I don't know if anyone's like me. I'm really bad about I'll swipe the card and I go, oh, okay, I think I have. Okay, you spent $10 here and $12. Yeah, I should have this much left on my account, right? And you don't really write it down. I don't write it down. I'm terrible about that. But at least with the Apple Pay system, you'll have a full record of what you spent for that day, and then you can go back and match it up against your actual account. So that's the biggest thing, and the fact that Apple's going to get a piece of every transaction. I don't know what the percentage is. They haven't revealed that yet. Whether it's a penny or half a penny or whatever it is 0.000.1 or .00, 3 zeros and a 1. They haven't revealed it yet, but you're talking about. They said in 2012. We spent $2.4 trillion in transactions in the year 2012 or 2013, and that's just going to grow and get bigger and bigger, especially with mobile payments. And there's more problems with security. I just heard it today that that credit card information is stolen really easily because you can scan the card on the reader, and then right next to the card is another reader that they can swipe. That they're trying to rip you off. So
right, and you know, we're going to get into security here in a second, because I actually, of course, I'm going to bring up the iCloud security and the naked women and all that good stuff. But before we get there, I got Paul's attention. He's like, what, naked women? But before we do that, I actually want to ask Ryan a question, because Ryan is probably one of the most technologically challenged individuals that I've met in a while. I like Ryan a lot, but I mean, the guy can't even set up his voicemail. Like, if you call him right now, his voicemail won't answer. Ryan, does that make you nervous, knowing that the future of buying anything is going to be walking up and using your iPhone? I mean, does that concern you as a person who can't use technology, that, oh my God, this is going to actually become like my wallet? Like, does that scare you? Are you nervous?
I'm going to be honest. When did we talk about that? Is that what Mark was talking about? I zoned out. Nothing against him. I just.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Mark is saying that the future is Apple Pay, and Apple Pay.
I told Joe ahead of time. This is the topic I'm going to probably zone out on. I have a phone here. I don't even know what kind of phone this is. Mark, can you? Hold on. I'm trying to.
Hold it up.
What is this?
Back up. Turn it around. Let me see the other side. The front.
That is
a 5S. You have a 5S.
It's a 5S. But anyway, Ryan, if you had to use that, like, I mean, you can't set up your voicemail. If you had to use that to purchase stuff, is that a little bit intimidating to you?
No, my wife does most of the purchasing. She bought this phone. That's why I don't,
Sorry. And Mark, I'm going to ask you another question, and then I'm going to get back to everybody else. So I was disappointed, to be the least. I want to know if you can kind of tell here on my phone. Let me. Is the next iPhone going to look like this one? is that the few without sapphire glass? Is that what I can look forward to with the next phone?
So there was a video about probably like a month ago. I can't think of his name right now. Marquis or something like that, and he said he claimed to have had the front glass of the new iPhone 6, and he's stabbing it with the knife, he's scratching it with keys, he's scratching it with the knife, he's bending it under his foot, and nothing's happened to it whatsoever. I mean, he tried his best to break it, it never broke. Now, everyone was assuming it was sapphire because, of course, the plant that's in Mesa, Arizona, that was made for sapphire production. But news keeps coming out that the factory is not really ready for mass production of screens of that size. Now the Apple Watch is all sapphire, and I'm assuming that's where it came from, that same plant. Maybe it came from somewhere else. The details are still trickling out. But if that guy that had that screen, if that is the screen that they're using, and it's just not sapphire, Apple said it was an ion protected. I don't even know. Still don't know what that means.
Yeah.
If that's what it is, then technically no. That what you have, that basically chewed up phone on the front, should not happen. But again, he only tested the front glass. He didn't have obviously the entire assembly with the phone. You couldn't drop it from like 5 feet or 10 feet. So, we're not obviously. I guarantee you this. the day the iPhone comes out, or the next day it comes out, there will be a couple of kids with a camera, with a Samsung in one hand and an iPhone 6 in the other, that they just spent $1,000 for. They're going to drop them from 4 feet and then 10 feet and everything else.
Right.
So we will see tests. Trust me, within the first couple of days of release, we'll see tests, and then that'll give you all the evidence you need.
All right, so we'll find out soon enough. Now, Paul, I know you've got a lot of naked pictures on your phone, and I know you use iCloud. I hacked your account the other day. I apologize.
Oh God! Paul's taking over the show.
But no, I mean, in all honesty, with all the naked pictures you've got, Paul, on your phone, and the iCloud security, are you concerned that some of those are going to be leaked now that you're a big star? You host those Battle Superfluous debates. Are you worried that your naked pictures are going to be all over the internet tomorrow?
I have no idea what naked pictures anybody's talking about. And yeah, I always worry about my security. I have iPhones and I have iPads and I use Apple computers because they're the best technology-wise. But I've never experienced, thank goodness to everyone in heaven, that I've never experienced any kind of identity theft. And it's funny because I was going through a stack of mail just last week where I'm going through and tearing up Capital One and Discover send me offers for credit cards every freaking day with new numbers that are mine exclusively. And I'm going through and tearing them up, and I'm thinking, what is this even doing? Like, if anybody wants to actually steal my identity, they can do it. They just need to, like, use the right system. Maybe that's Apple's iCloud. I don't know. And hopefully it's not. But as a consumer and a user of many Apple products, I will probably buy the next iPhone, and I will probably use their wallet.
Very good. Heidi, same question. Are you concerned about your security, or would you take, because we're all celebrities here, right? We're all like, super famous and everybody cares about us. Would you actually take those types of pictures and keep them on your iCloud account? This is totally taking an opposite direction than I expected, but I just thought I'd ask.
Okay. Well, that is a good question, because when that recent leak happened with the celebrities' photos, there were a lot of people saying, like, well, she shouldn't have had them on there anyway. And I see the logic of that, but I don't agree with the sort of morality or whatever that's beneath that statement. We're all allowed to take pictures of whatever we want to on our personal property. It's like saying you shouldn't take photos of something and put them in your house because somebody could burgle your house and get them. No, you shouldn't. People shouldn't steal your stuff. Is really what it is the should about it, in my opinion. I'm actually not a fan of taking naked photos, so I really can't answer that on a personal level.
I'm actually I'm thankful a little bit about the hack because I got to see Kate Upton naked, so that was to me. I apologize to the world. I mean, I'm sorry, it sucks. I'm sorry, Kate Upton. It really sucks. But you're a beautiful woman. But beyond that, I hate that anybody would hack, and that's all. People live for that kind of stuff, and that's just horrible. And yeah, it's a moral thing that we should all learn not to do. But I'm glad I got to see him. Sorry. I'm just being honest. Brian Donahue, do you disagree that they're celebrities, they're out there every day, most of them are already naked in movies, so what's it matter if it's a personal picture or in a movie?
Well, no, I mean, I kind of see it as it's definitely not an equality of fault, but I see it as, like 85-15. When you put something onto an iPhone, it specifically says now, do you want to back it up to your iCloud? I think if you're a celebrity and you know that there's the possibility that these could be leaked somewhere, it takes 2 seconds for you to be a little bit more conscientious and say, no, I don't want to back that up to this mysterious entity in the sky where these pictures are never going to be deleted from. However, that being said, I don't in any way agree that there is any sort of public right for us to have these pictures. They were taken in the privacy of someone's own home or, in a photo studio. I actually just heard the other day Jennifer Lawrence, who was one of the ones who got hacked, tried to have them taken down by using copyright. However, because she refuses to tell them who actually took the pictures, she doesn't technically own the copyrights on them. So they can't take them off the internet unless someone admits to taking them. And I guess that's something they're not willing to do. So it gets into this whole can of worms over, where we all know where the fault lies, is the jackasses who decided that they were going to reach into someone's private property and post it all over the internet. However, I do see a little bit of fault in, if you don't take them and you don't back them up to the cloud, then they aren't there to be taken. But I do see Heidi's point as well, as don't hang it, as in saying you can't hang a naked picture of yourself on your own wall because someone might come into your house. Mind you, if anyone wants to traumatize themselves by actually seeing naked pictures of me, they deserve what they get. So going back to the whole security thing, I'm not really worried about it, A, with naked pictures or my credit, because A, if they want my naked pictures, as I said, they're welcome to them. And if they want to fix my credit enough to actually make it worthwhile, they're more than welcome to take that as well. So
So I'm just so I'm clear, we're saying it's wrong that I'm trying to hack into Megan Fox's account when I read the story that 80% of all women take naked pictures. That's not right.
No, it's not right. However, if you do, send me the link.
Yeah, or because there's a few people that I would like to see: Olivia Wilde, Megan Fox. Anyway,
Joe, real quick, just one more thought. It actually was revealed. I read an article a week or two ago that this was actually a ring of people that were trading naked photos, and they've been doing this for years. And someone screwed up, and it got out. So it was a secret club organization of people that were trading naked pictures of celebrities, and you can't buy your way into the group. You literally have to trade. To get into the group, you have to have naked photos of a top celebrity. So someone got greedy, thought I can make some money from this, and then what it resulted was finding out there's all these other naked pictures. So there's actually a club and a sect that was actually found out because of this. So it wasn't like the hack just happened like a week before. It was always happening.
Good to know. Yeah, I love Paul. I'm bringing you up here so everybody can see. It's incredibly true, and kids today need to know this. New parents, there is no privacy on the internet. Once it's there, it's there.
I think, though, the biggest thing that scared me when I heard it was one of the people who got hacked was one of our former Olympians, and her only response to it to get it off the internet was, "I was underage when I took them." That right there just kind of illuminates to me one of the major problems that we're having here. If you're underage, what the hell business do you have taking pictures of yourself naked? If I had a child, I have a niece, that's the closest thing I have to a child, and if I found out she was taking pictures of herself naked, I'd throw her damn phone out the window and turn it into a pile of scrap before I let her do anything like that. And I think that that's part of where I see the problem coming in is we're giving implied consent. It's okay for people to take nude photos if they're old enough to understand the implications behind it.
I love it. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to the next topic, and that's good. We're going to kind of click this one over a little bit over the time I set. Thank you, Paul. I love it. We got. Hey, I said he was the world's greatest DJ, didn't I? All right. So recently, for some of us nerds like myself, as in Nerd Boy Media, we got to see the first glimpse of the new Batmobile from Snyder's new Batman vs. Superman movie. And when I first saw this, and I was just like, when did Batman get a tank? Like, do we really need a tank to fight crime? I thought Batman was like this, like, non-violent, gonna kill people kind of hero. I'm curious, Brian, as a comic fan, when you see this and you see the big guns and this, like, I could only imagine what, like, that would look like compared to a car. Is this just movie magic, or as a fan of comics, is this disgusting? Where do you lie in that spot?
Well, okay, so the major thing, and someone actually posted this as a comment, it was one of the very first comments I read in response to the Bat Tank, was, so the very first thing that Snyder decided to do was put 2 ginormous miniguns on the front of it to give a character who has never picked up a gun in the history of DC Comics. He refuses to use them. His parents were both murdered by gun violence. Bruce Wayne is an advocate against gun violence in every comic book that he has ever been on. In fact, they have had several panels of him standing in front of Congress trying to get larger gun control policies put into Gotham City. And now Zack Snyder decides that he's going to put guns on the Batmobile. So what that says to me, aside from the fact that we've already had to take the fact that we're going to have Batfleck, secondly, we've had to take the fact that we've got the Social Network as Lex Luthor, we've got Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and now we've been told we're going to have to deal with Cyborg too, and now I'm being told Batman's going to use guns. Obviously, Zack Snyder has never picked up a Batman comic in his entire life. Why do we keep giving this man money to ruin our childhood? I mean, honestly, I think a 5-year-old with a paint gun could do better designing a Batmobile than this guy could. Every single director who's ever done Batman has had their own Batmobile, and I even think Joel Schumacher's Neon Nightmare is a hell of a lot better as a representation of a Batmobile than this thing. I mean, this is a man who has trained in every form of martial art under the sun, and according to comic book authorities that I've read, would have needed at least 27 years worth of college to get the knowledge that he has in all of his, chemistry and biology, and the fact that he's actually a practicing post-mortem surgeon. And now all of a sudden we've reduced him to a guy who couldn't act his way out of a paper bag and needs miniguns to fight crime. I'm not afraid of this Batman. I'm not afraid of him at all. I'm afraid of him the way I was afraid of the Ed 209 in the old RoboCop movies.
So, okay, and now I've got same question for Ryan and Paul. Ryan first. Ryan, as a movie producer, is this just a, hey, look how much money I can spend to make this really cool, big, black beast?
I don't really think we can judge too much yet. It's a picture, We'll have to wait. I'm not a particular fan of Zack Snyder. I've seen The Man of Steel. Actually, I watched the first hour and a half of Man of Steel on In Demand, and then my TV went dead, and I didn't care enough to rent it again and watch it. It was okay. He did the 300. That was 300 his, I think. Yeah, that was okay. Sucker Punch was a bit ridiculous. But I don't know yet. It's just a photo. We'll have to see. I know there's been a lot
Paul, I'm going to ask you the same exact question as a producer. Is this just a hey, look at what I can do versus let's make a good movie?
My opinion is that I love when directors step into something that's classic and try to make it their own. Like when what's his face guy took over Batman Begins. I'm sorry, Mr. Memento.
Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan is, yeah.
Christopher Nolan. Duh. But that is awesome. Like, if you can step in and make it your own and really own it, that's something that's great. But when you try to do too much, no. The great thing, and what really, let's talk about, boosted comic book films was Iron Man. And the reason Iron Man was so popular was because they took the comic and they made it personable. They made it like, oh, this could happen in everyday life. And then that's what every comic book movie started to try to do. When Zack Snyder's Superman came out, I was like, holy shit, Superman and Zod, you just destroyed New York, and nobody freaking cares. Like, the Avengers destroyed New York, but they dealt with it in a way, in Captain America and in future movies that we were like, okay, yeah, they're still holding on to a thread of humanity here. But Superman and Zod, like, literally nuked New York. And then he's kissing Lois Lane at the end. And I'm like, really? Like, where is my reality here? How do I connect to that? So, good job for Zack Snyder to make the Batmobile dirty and look like it was actually built in a garage. Awesome. But throwing it back to what Brian said, I love my my 90s Batmobile. That slick, long thing that just it drove into the cliff and you were like, there it goes. That's awesome. That's the Batman from my childhood. That's the Batmobile from my childhood. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe Ben Affleck will do better as Batman than Daredevil.
Daredevil was horrible. Sorry, that just every time I think of Daredevil, it was one of the worst movies I've seen in a long time, and I've watched my own movies. So I'm going to move on to Mark Langston. Mark, I know you and I have talked about this, the movie, and what it's going to, what you think. Seeing that picture, does it get you excited? Are you like, oh my god, I can't wait to go see this movie because there's this like really big tank that Batman's going to drive that just is a tank that has a gun? I mean, does it serve the purpose for what it was really meant to?
Well, no, I mean, and I agree with Brian. You nailed it on the head, really. The only thing I would piggyback on, and we just did discuss this, was that I think what we have to, as film goers, as comic book lovers, we have to try to do, and this is really hard, is separate the mythology from the comic to the movie to the film, because the producers and the writers and everyone involved wants to put their own spin on it. Kind of like what Paul was saying. They take it to different levels and they make it their own, and that's great. But when I see this, all I really see is overindulgence. I see Zack Snyder basically being doing a George Lucas move where it's not about the characters anymore. It's not really about the story or any meaningful dialogue. It's just about how much, or Michael Baying it. How much can I blow up? I don't know if anyone's seen this yet, but there was an amazing trailer of Disney's Up, and someone recut it to make it look like a Michael Bay movie with like lens flares, and everything was blowing up. Like every time someone did something, there was an explosion. And that's kind of what I guess they feel like directors or maybe Hollywood thinks that we want. We want everything to blow up, and not a real explosion, but Michael Bay that uses like fireworks and explosions, right? Like every single explosion is red, green, and yellow, and orange and purple. No, I saw that. Again, I'm also kind of with Ryan too, where maybe we need to have to wait and see what he does with it. In the Dark Knight comic book, he does have guns in the what's his name? Miller.
Frank Miller.
Frank Miller. Thank you. Frank Miller. He did have guns, but he was using it to try to kill Superman. So maybe that's part of it. I missed the Batman Begins version, which he had a gun on that one too, but you always knew that when the Christian Bale Batman used it, it was more tactical. It had more of a purpose, and it really was a tank, but it was more of a tactical kind of a thing. He never meant to use a gun to kill anyone. It was just always to clear rubble, and even Morgan Freeman explained that this was a tank to come in and sort of support, not really as an offensive vehicle. But yeah, when you see those gun turrets like that, it looks scary now. It was a utility vehicle in Batman Begins and the whole Christopher Nolan saga. Now it's just a weapon, and that's the. I was okay with the slick part. Yeah, the '90s version, slick and wings and everything else. Then you go utility. Okay, I can believe that because that's kind of how the Batman Begins movie was made, to be more grounded in reality. But now it's both of them mixed together, and it doesn't mix well.
Interesting. So Heidi, I'm going to give you one last on this, and then we're going to have one final comment from everybody. We're going to wrap this thing up. So Heidi, if Batman comes down the road, he's got this big new car, the guns in the front blazing, he comes up and says, "I am Batman." Are you going to be like, I want to take a ride with that guy, he's cool? Like, is Batman have any sex appeal in that type of car, or is it like, hey, he's overcompensating, he must have something else?
I don't think that kind of car would intrigue me, but you know what? Maybe it's like a hologram of a bigger, scarier car that the car puts out to the certain enemy. We don't really know. It could be like a little,
he's driving like a smart car, right? Like a little,
yeah. It's just a tactic to freak him out. So we have to wait. We know we're all going to see the movie to check it out. So pretty good PR, I gotta say.
I love it. Well, we're talking about it, so I guess it did something. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate you guys coming. I'd like to get just one final thought on any of the 3 topics you have. Make it brief and quick, starting with Ryan. Ryan, of the 3 topics, what do you think? What's your final thought on the day? What do you want to leave your audience, impart what kind of wisdom with?
iPhone, I have nothing to say. Buy the iPhone. Mark says it's good, and he seems to know what he's talking about, so do it. That's great. The photo of the Batmobile, let's not judge too quickly. Remember back when The Dark Knight came out? Oh, Heath Ledger is the Joker. And then look what happened there. Brilliant performance. So let's just wait. And Ray Rice, that's what happens, man, when you make a lot of money and you make a mistake. You pay bigger than people who are like us, you know.
Right, right. I like that. You pay bigger than people like us. Paul, final thoughts.
Oh, you're jumping to me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, your turn.
So,
final thoughts.
Yeah, sorry. So Batman and movies in general, too much, too big, too many explosions, too many effects. Give me a story. Phones, same thing. Give me a phone that I can freaking use and watch shows like The Book of Joe. And I don't need spillover or what my workout statistics are. Too much. Sports, entertainment. Ray Rice, anybody who we're raising up to this level of celebrity needs to stop. We need to in order to change the future, we need to change our culture and who we look up to, and it needs to be people who aren't going to knock people out in elevators. So, or blow up Manhattan to kiss Lois Lane. I just want to say kiss your family and tell them stories around the fireplace and listen to the radio. Vince Scully's voice is gospel.
I love it. Thank you, Paul, except for the Dodger reference. Mark Langston, final thoughts, keeping it pithy.
Ray Rice, yeah, he should be banned. He shouldn't be back in football again. Hopefully the Ravens can get past this and have a good season. The picture, again, discipline, which should be more like school, not prison. And as far as Apple goes, they are still in the hot seat. They're still the biggest innovators in the world, and I think this is just another chapter for them. This is iPhone all over again. So this will sustain them for another, half decade or more.
Nice. Heidi, final thoughts, please.
Okay, well, Batman Mobile, I just think it's really adorable that mostly men and many women get to replay their childhood, and we all need that, so that's cool with me. The iPhone kind of feels like the same thing, so yeah. And if anyone out there is in a situation of domestic abuse or child abuse, tell somebody. It's the hardest thing to do, and it's the thing that will save you.
Very nice. Thehotline.org. Brian Donahue, final thoughts.
As far as the iPhone goes, my one last thought, just kind of throw it out there. I remember when I first started seeing cell phones, they were absolutely enormous, and I was really happy when the technology started getting smaller. And I'm trying to figure out exactly why it is we're going back to the Zach Morris phone, because I really don't want to have to carry a purse just to carry a phone. But on the other 2 topics, I kind of have the same thing to say to both Zack Snyder and to all football players, which is, remember that whether it's a cherished comic book character or whether it is the hopes and dreams of another generation, remember you're holding on to something very, very special and very, very precious, and it is your responsibility to make sure that you treat it with respect and that you treat it with the thought that it requires. And make sure that we're going to tell you if we think you're disrespecting that. And that's exactly what's going on right now between the outrage of all the nerds and the outrage of all the football fans and non-fans alike. So just remember that when you're in the public eye, you have a responsibility to the people that watch you.
I love it. Thank you. So before we wrap, I just want to thank everybody that is watching or has watched this and my guest. When it comes to Ray Rice and anything I said doesn't always mean it's the thoughts and beliefs of me or any of the organizations that I work with, Nerd Boy Media or Battle Superfluous. It's just a fun conversation, and sometimes we say things just to inspire conversation. So please don't hold me liable for anything I have said, Megan Fox. That being said, I want to thank everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. I would like to keep doing this, so please let me know below. Subscribe. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me comments. Tell me what you like, what you didn't like. I want to make this fun, and I would invite everybody to come and join, and maybe we can make these bigger and have more people and maybe only take one topic. That being said, I think Paul said it right. Hug your family. Stop beating them with sticks. Don't knock out your girlfriend. Be smart. Let's not be a bunch of dumb apes. I mean, come on now. And as far as a movie with a Batmobile that makes a guy look like he's got, one of these, like, way overcompensating, let me just say, you want to watch a movie with a story. So I recommend Ira and Allison's Murder Mystery. Simple as that. Doesn't explode. I don't think there's a single explosion in it. So it's just a simple thing. And for good online entertainment, you can watch Book of Joe, Battle Superfluous, ZoomTube TV. I mean, there's a lot of ways we can entertain ourselves. Zach, bring it down, buddy. Let's kind of stick to the basics and remember. I appreciate everybody for coming. It's the Book of Joe, and we will be seeing you all very soon.